Y'all, this is not biscuits and gravy. It's corned beef gravy, and once you try it, regular gravy is just gonna feel boring to you. This is an old school comfort food that costs almost nothing and comes together in minutes. Hear the crunch of that toast. I grew up eating this, and it's been a family staple for decades at our house. Stay with me because one simple trick makes this gravy rich, smooth, and almost impossible to mess up. Mmm, y'all, that's so good. Hey everybody, welcome to Back Porch Cooking and Reminiscing. I'm Roger. Glad to have y'all here with us today. And let's get started on this recipe for this corned beef gravy, toast, and scrambled eggs. All right, y'all. So we're ready to get started making this corned beef gravy. So first thing we got to have, of course, is our corned beef. Now this is a can of corned beef, and one thing you got to be careful with when you're opening it is it's got a key on it. If you've never had to open one of these before, and you got to take this key off, turn it down to where it's the top part is pointed down, and then you just start twisting it all the way around the can until you get it open. But you got to be real careful because if you get off track, it makes it really harder to open that can. So try to keep your key straight as you're going around your can. All right, and then once you get out the can, this is what it's going to look like. Now, it's not very appealing looking as it is, but I promise you, in this gravy, it is going to be awesome. Now, we also need flour and we need a little oil. Now, one of the things that I've already done is I put in, you don't have to do this if you haven't got it, but if you've got it, use it. I put about a good tablespoon of bacon grease in this pot before we add anything else to it. Now I'm letting that bacon grease melt right now. Then the next thing we're going to do is put our oil in. So let's go ahead and do that. Now you can use a skillet to do this with, but today I'm going to use just a regular pot here to do it with because it's just as simple and easy and it'll work just as well. So as I said, we've got about a good tablespoon of bacon grease in there. And now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little more oil to it. And it's hard to tell you exactly what your oil is going to be. It's just one of those things you just have to do it and see what it looks like and go from there. But we kind of want to at least cover the bottom of our pan or our skillet with oil. So now I've got this set on about 5 on the stove here. So we're going to let that get hot. And now something else I've already done is I have cracked our eggs, put a little bit of milk in there, some salt and pepper. That's all we're going to do to our eggs. So we'll be ready to get those once we get the gravy going. So I think we may be about ready to go ahead and start putting us some flour in there. And again, flour is just one of those things you got to add a little bit, stir it up, and you're making a roux with this flour and this oil. So, you just got to keep going until you get it right. There's no exact measurements on this. So now we're using, as always, we use everything pretty much white lily. And so I'm gonna put some flour in here, and then I'm gonna mix that up and just see where we're at on it. Like I say, no exact measurements on that. Yeah, we're gonna need some more flour in there. I'm making quite a bit of gravy here today. The less gravy that you need, the less oil and the less flour that you're going to use. And once I get this roux about right, I'll show you what it's going to look like. Now, since I'm using a non-stick pan, I am going to be using my coated whisk because I don't want to scratch up the bottom of my pan. All right, we're going to need just a little bit more flour. Like I say, you may have to add flour 2 or 3 different times to get the consistency that you want in your roux. But that's okay. And if you do wind up adding too much, just add just a little bit more of your oil to it, and it'll thin out and be where you need it. I have made it to where my roux was just super thick, and I've had to add quite a bit more oil to it to get it calmed down a little bit. All right, maybe just a touch more, but it's just about there. And I turned my stove off accidentally, so let's get that going back again. Yeah, that's going to do it right there. So let me move this flour here and kind of give you a view of what your roux is going to look like. And you see it's going to drip off of the spoon or the whisk, whatever you're using, but that's about the consistency that we want it for this gravy. All right, so now we're going to add some salt and pepper. And as I always tell you, don't go crazy with the salt. You can add more at the end, but if you get too much in there, it's a little more difficult to deal with. I'm going to put a little pepper in there. And what we're doing now is we're letting this roux brown, because we don't want it to be white. If it's just white, you're probably going to be able to taste the flour in it. So we're going to let this roux cook on the stove here for a little bit until it starts to get brown. And then once it gets brown, we'll add our corned beef into it. So we'll be back once that roux is browned up. So we got our flour and oil mixture brown, and you can see this is about the color that you want it to be. It's not dark and it's not white anymore. It's just kind of a nice tan color. Now, if you like a darker gravy, you can let it go a little longer. But now, one thing to remember when you're doing this, when you're making your roux, is let it cook for about 15 seconds and stir it. Let it cook for about 15 seconds, stir it. Because if you don't keep stirring it, it's going to wind up getting really dark on you, and you don't want it to be dark. All right, so we're ready to start adding our corned beef. Now, I've cut this into pieces here. Don't know if we'll be using all of it or not, but we shall see what we need. We may use every bit of it, but you're just going to put it in the pan or in the pot, whichever you're using, and then use your whisk or your fork or whatever you're using to break it up. And as it gets hot, it'll come apart a whole lot easier. And you may be thinking like the chipped beef stuff that you get that's frozen, or you can make it on your own. But that's not what this is. This is an old country recipe, and my mother used to make this all the time, and I just loved it. It's something we'd have like on a Saturday or maybe even a Sunday morning, and it is really good. Sometimes she'd make it to go over biscuits, but most of the time when we had this, it was to go over toast. All right, let's see. I think we go ahead and put that other piece in there too. Get all of our little scraps there that was left. Yeah, I think that'll be good. That'll give us a good ratio of corned beef to our gravy. And all we're doing right now is just letting that corned beef get hot, break up into little pieces so that when we add our milk to it, then it'll start to thicken up. Smelling good already. All right, we're going to beat everything out of our whisk there. And then we're going to get our milk out of the refrigerator. And on the milk, I just use a regular vitamin D whole milk. You can use canned milk if you want to, or whatever kind of milk that you prefer. You can use whatever you want. So now we're just going to add some milk. We're not going to add a whole lot, just going to add enough to get things started. Maybe come up to about the top of the corned beef. Still able to see the corned beef on top there. And then we're just going to start working that in. We're going to turn our temperature back up to about a 3. I did cut the temperature down to just a low when we were adding in the corned beef. As I said, this ain't necessarily the prettiest dish in the world when you're making it, but pretty don't matter when it tastes good. All right, and we're just going to keep adding a little more milk to it. And now when it starts to thicken up, then you may have to really put some more milk in it, but we're just trying to get it to start thickening. All right, so that's what we got right now. We're just gonna wait on it to start thickening, and then we'll start thinning it down. So once we get ready for that, we'll come back to you. So I've moved our gravy over to the smaller eye because we just want it to cook up and get a little thicker. But you can see kind of what it looks like, and so we're gonna get started on the eggs. So I've sprayed my pan with some of the nonstick spray. I like to cook my eggs in that nonstick. And got about 6 eggs in here with some milk and some salt and pepper. And the reason I'm doing 6 is my son's coming over this morning. He's going to be eating with us. So I have to have a little extra to get him something going. So we're going to beat these eggs up. Get them ready to go in the skillet. And I've got this set on about a 3 right now. We may turn it up a little bit. All right, those are looking good. So let's get those in the skillet. All right. So now we got that done. Now we're getting close to being ready to eat here, not too much longer. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that up to about a 4.5. Let's see how our gravy's doing over here. Looks like that gravy's doing pretty good so far. All right, we're just going to leave that, and we're going to wait on our eggs to get cooked here. All right, y'all. So we got our eggs are completely done now. Our gravy's done. Eggs are beautiful. And now on this gravy, I want to show you what this is going to look like. So this is the consistency that we want our gravy to be, where it pours out of the spoon, but it kind of sticks to it too. So there you can kind of see how that looks. So that is what we want. Now I've got some toast over here in the air fryer, and it's all toasted up and ready. So I think we're about ready to eat.